want to promote your business? Do you want to talk about your nonprofit organization? Do you want to talk about your culture? Introducing the online web TV, Afric Today. Fogham. You can watch us live at the same time on 4 platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and using the Afric Today app. Download our app today for Android or Apple. Promote your business today. For more information, go to www.africtoday.com. Afric Today, the best of digital TV.
Do you need food? Call 311 and ask for the Food Access Call Center. The call center can connect you with resources such as SNAP to help you pay for groceries. You may also receive food and prepared meals from organizations throughout the county. Call center staff help community members in English, Spanish, Chinese, Korean, and other languages. Visit our website www.montgomerycountymd.gov/COVID-19-food for the latest food resources. Again, call 311 to be connected to the Food Access Call Center.
In order to utilize your skills and enter the digital entrepreneurship space, the new National Chamber of Commerce and the new USA DRC Chamber of Commerce, in partnership with Diaspo Academy, established in the United States of America, offers you training sessions in digital entrepreneurship at reduced costs. These trainings will allow you to enter the digital world and improve your digital skills for the benefit of this terre d'avenir and grand marché that is the Democratic Republic of Congo. As a free first-time participation, please send your WhatsApp contacts to 243-9907-30795. The first training will take place on August 15th at 1 p.m. from Kinshasa. Hurry because places are limited. Hurry because places are limited.
Avez-vous besoin de nourriture? Appelez le 311 et demandez le centre d'appel d'accès de nourriture. Notre centre d'appel peut vous mettre en contact avec des ressources telles que Snap qui vous aidera à payer vos courses. Vous pouvez également recevoir de la nourriture et des plats préparés d'organisation de tout le comté. Le personnel du centre d'appel parle plusieurs langues et aide les membres de la communauté en anglais, espagnol, chinois, coréen et dans d'autres langues. Pour plus d'informations, visitez notre site www.montgomerycountymd.gov/covid19-food et vous serez informé des dernières ressources alimentaires. Encore une fois, appelez le 311 pour être connecté au centre d'appel d'accès de nourriture.
and I'm the president of the Pacha Foundation. I wanted to just hop on here briefly this morning to welcome you to today's very important discussion on colorectal cancer. The death of actor Chadwick Boseman left us all shocked, hurt, and with a lot of questions about this dreadful disease. We know that colorectal cancer is preventable. So why are so many still being affected by it? We know that it is preventable and it is treatable if caught early. So why are so many still dying from this dreadful disease? Today, we have put together a lineup of incredible speakers who will share with us, engage us, educate us, remind us of our role, and empower us to move forward in this fight to conquer this disease. I would like to thank our speakers. I'd like to thank our partners, the Assembly of Petworth and Immigrant Community Services for joining hands with us today to make this happen. I also would like to thank you, the audience, for investing in your own health and in seeing the value in tuning in this morning. So please stay tuned for this next 90 minutes and just open up to our speakers. Bring up all the questions you have, all the concerns you've had since the passing of Chadwick Boseman. Empower yourselves to fight cancer and win. I'd like to turn it over now to Mr. William Michael Bridgewater, who is the president, founder, and CEO of Assembly of Petworth, for his remarks. Thank you all for joining us.
Good day. I'm Ray Michael Bridgewater, President and CEO of the Assembly of Petworth. It is my pleasure to welcome you, whether you're watching from homeland Africa, the Caribbean, Central or South America, or the United States. I send you my heartfelt greetings. This webinar is a collaboration effort of the Michael and Maitreya Patrick Foundation, the Immigrant Community Services, and of course the Assembly of Petworth. The virtual webinar is a forum to dialogue and discuss the impact of colorectal cancer on African Americans, Africans, and people of African descent. Colorectal cancer is a preventable and treatable disease when diagnosed early. However, according to the World Health Organization, cancer is shaping up to be the primary health care issue facing Africans in the diaspora and on the continent. In the United States, the cancer gap is growing wider. While cancer mortality rates in the United States have declined in the white population, African Americans, Africans, and people of African descent continue to be burdened with the ever-increasing cancer death rates and, of course, at an alarming rate at an early age. Just recently, the entertainment world lost a remarkable talent and international star, Chadwick Boseman, at the age of 43 to colorectal cancer. Mr. Boseman learned of his disease of stage 3 colorectal cancer at the age of 39. Is his death at the age of 43 a new norm or an anomaly? When did stage 1 and 2 occur? When he was 35 or 30 years of age? What are the driving factors of this disease? What are the action steps must we adopt to increase prevention and survival? What are the tools we must use to bridge the gap that racial and health equity doors have left open to our community and population to ravaged by this disease? Our distinguished panel of experts will examine and dialogue on prevention, early diagnosis, family history, genetics, and how to improve our panelists plenty of questions. Thank you.
Josephine.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much, Ray, for this. Greetings, everyone, and thank you for joining us in this live online series called Bridging the Cancer Care Gap. Once again, the Pasha Foundation and the Assembly of Petworth brings forth a critical topic of the collective impact, community-based strategy session on colorectal cancer. My name is Josephine Garnham, and I will be your host for tonight's segment. Our virtual program is being broadcasted live today thanks to the great partnership with Afrique Today, an online TV show that streams live on Facebook, YouTube, and its website, afriquetoday.com. We welcome all our viewers from all over the world. Today, the Michael and Maurizia Pacha Foundation and the Assembly of Petworth's hope is to create a space to raise awareness and inform the public on the topic of colorectal cancer, its risks, prevention, symptoms, and the importance of screening, prevention, and the most up-to-date treatment options and processes that are in place right now. Our esteemed panelists will also discuss guidelines and resources, particularly for the uninsured population. I will quickly go around and briefly introduce our panelists, and then we will get right on to our discussion. Today, we are joined by Dr. Adeyinka Leyemo. He obtained his medical degree from the University of Lagos, Nigeria, and completed his internal medicine and gastroenterology training at Howard University Hospital in Washington, D.C. He completed a postdoctoral fellowship in cancer prevention at the National Cancer Institute at NIH in 2009. During his fellowship, he obtained a Master of Public Health degree with concentration in epidemiology and biostatistics from Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health in Baltimore, Maryland. He's board certified in internal medicine and gastroenterology and joined the Howard University College of Medicine faculty in January 2010. He's currently a tenured associate professor of medicine. His research interest focuses on risk factors that are associated with colorectal adenoma and cancer, including screening and surveillance issues. He's also studying factors and preference solutions for the disproportionately higher burden of colorectal cancer among minority populations. Welcome, Dr. Adeyinka. Our other guest speaker who's also given us a keynote address is Dr. Otis Browley. Dr. Otis is the Bloomberg Distinguished Professor of Oncology and Epidemiology at Johns Hopkins University. He's a board-certified medical oncologist and an epidemiologist. He's an authority on cancer screening and prevention and leads a broad research effort of cancer health disparities at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, Bloomberg School of Public Health, and the Sidney Kimmel Comprehensive Cancer Center, focusing on how to close racial, economic, and social disparities in the prevention, detection, and treatment of cancer. From 2007 to 2018, Browley was Chief Medical and Scientific Officer of the American Cancer Society. He is a recipient of the U.S. Public Health Service Meritorious Service Medal, the Department of Defense Distinguished Service Award, and the 2019 American Medical Association Distinguished Service Award. He is also a member of the National Academy of Medicine. We are so honored to have these really esteemed guests, and I'll take it and pass it on to you, Dr. Otis.
Hello, thank you, and good morning, good afternoon for those of you who are in Africa. It's my privilege to talk to you a little bit about colorectal cancer and to end this scientific session. Colorectal cancer is a disease for which we've had some success in Europe and the United States. There's more than a 50% decline in the reduction of death rate since 1980. This has come, of course, because of improvements in screening and treatment. I should point out in the United States that 50% decrease in risk of death has been enjoyed by most of the Black population. It is still true that colorectal cancer is the second leading cause of death overall in the United States and Europe from cancer. It's the second leading cause of cancer death. In the United States, there are going to be 155,000 Americans diagnosed and 50,000 dying this year. Now, while it is the second leading cause of death overall, I should point out it is the third leading cause of death in men and the third leading cause of death in women. For men, it is lung, prostate, and colorectal. For women, it is lung, breast, and colorectal. In any event, it's about 10% of all cancer deaths in the United States, Europe, and Africa. While we're all moved by Mr. Bose's death, I think it's important that we realize that most people who are diagnosed with colorectal cancer are diagnosed in their 60s, usually the age of 63 to 65. Of those dying of colorectal cancer, very, very few are diagnosed before the age of 45. And indeed, in the United States and Europe, less than 10%, including less than 10% of Blacks and people of African heritage are diagnosed before the age of 50. Blacks have about a 20% increased risk of death from colorectal cancer compared to whites in the United States and Europe. The most common causes of colorectal cancer are poor diet, eating processed foods, consuming too many calories, not enough calories or not enough fruits and vegetables, and not enough whole grains, combined with not enough exercise. In the United States, the obesity epidemic is a major contributor to colorectal cancer. In the United States, 15% of Black women were obese in 1970, and today it's more than 60%. And this is actually adding upward pressure to the diagnosis of colorectal cancer in women. We have similar increases, not in stark, but similar increases in Black men, again increasing the risk of death. There's been a recent small rise in the number of people aged 45 to 50 diagnosed with colorectal cancer, and we believe it's due to the obesity epidemic. Again, I cannot stress 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables and a diet rich in whole grains, starting in childhood, as a way to reduce risk of colorectal cancer. Again, it reduces risk of colorectal cancer. It does not reduce risk of colorectal cancer to 0. You will have thin people diagnosed with colorectal cancer. Please also try to maintain an ideal body weight. There are some people and some families that have a history of colorectal cancer and have a history of colorectal cancer that starts early. These people probably have a genetic predisposition. They should talk to their doctors, and perhaps they should start screening at an earlier age. Most organizations recommend screening start at the age of 45 or 50, and screening go until the age of 75. Screening is done for early detection. Most colorectal cancers start as a polyp. It's a small growth that begins inside the colon or inside the rectum, and it grows larger and larger. As it grows as a growth, almost like a small shrub inside of the colon, it can start bleeding, it can start shedding DNA and cellular products. It can be seen on colonoscopy. Being in a screening program where one gets regular screening, and I want to stress regular screening because too often we talk about get a test. We need to talk about getting the test on a regular basis and being in a program of screening. It has the potential of lowering one's risk of death from colorectal cancer by at least a third. There's also evidence that being in a screening program lowers risk of even diagnosis of colorectal cancer, because if one finds a precancerous polyp and removes it, one actually prevents someone from getting cancer. The screening tests involve stool blood testing, which can be done on a yearly basis, stool DNA testing, which is very commonly advertised on TV today, and that can be done every 3 years, or colonoscopy, where a physician puts a tube, a lighted tube, up into the rectum to look in the colon and look for polyps. In the United States, with the Affordable Care Act, all of these tests can be done on people who have insurance without any kind of copay. All they have to do is be of age and go to a doctor and ask for the test, and they can have it, and their insurance will pay the entire cost. Now, those who have a positive screening test for stool blood testing or stool DNA will need to get the colonoscopy. So many people, because of that, have chosen colonoscopy every 10 years. It's just the most common test. The idea is to find early disease, early colon cancer, a small polyp that has not become cancer, or a small polyp that's very early cancer, and remove it. If the cancer is a little bit larger, it may require an abdominal surgery. Later stage disease, what we call stage 3 disease, is still potentially curable through an abdominal surgery and chemotherapy. For rectal disease, surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation are commonly used to treat. Quality of the therapy, quality of the surgery, quality of the chemotherapy, right dosing, quality of the radiation, aiming it right, providing it with a good radiation therapy machine. These are all incredibly important. And I mention that because when we look at black-white differences in outcome, they are usually because blacks, or I should say poor people, oftentimes don't get quality treatment. Indeed, screening is important and it should be stressed. But in my opinion, screening is overstressed, and getting quality treatment once diagnosed is not stressed enough. We need to stress both. There's this tendency to focus on screening and not focus on getting high quality care. Now, I'm going to end by again stressing on what we can do to lower our risk. I don't like the word prevention in many respects, because people can do all the right things and still get this disease. But we can lower our risk by eating 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables. And it's especially important that we start this in childhood. Think about your children. Try to get 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. A diet rich in whole grains, not processed white bread, but whole wheat bread, rice, other types of grains, as well as exercise. Adults should get 150 to 300 minutes per week of moderate intensity exercise. Walking around the block for 20 or 30 minutes every day will do this. Walking is a great moderate exercise, or 75 to 150 minutes of vigorous exercise. That can involve running or something more intense. 150 to 300 minutes per week of moderate exercise. Children should be encouraged to engage in vigorous exercise at least an hour a day per week. Now, I haven't talked about smoking. Indeed, smoking does cause colorectal cancer, but it's very limited. But I do want to stress that people should not smoke. Smoking causes 18 different cancers, colorectal cancer amongst them. But in colorectal cancer, it's very frequent that smoking interferes with our abilities to actually treat a patient who has a very treatable colorectal cancer. It's a shame that someone's long will not allow us to give them treatment that we know can save their life. So thank you for allowing me to talk a little bit and set the groundwork for what colorectal cancer is, how we can prevent it, how we can screen for it, and let's have a good conversation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Browley. You have given us quite a lot of information to digest. And so I'm going to ask now, Dr. Adeyinka, we've gotten so much background from Dr. Browley. Tell us, why is knowing our family history, our family health history so important? Explain to our audience the role of genetic testing and counseling.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here with us today. And it's always a pleasure to see Dr. Browley. How are you, sir? Now, colon cancer, as Dr. Browley rightly mentioned, is a major problem for everybody who has a colon. So, and that's why I want to start by stressing what he said. It's not about preventing or eliminating your risk. It's about reducing it. Because so long as you have a colon, like, you know, the popular statement, if you have a phone, you have a lawyer. In this case, if you have a colon, you will always have a chance of developing colon cancer, regardless of who you are. It's a function of how do you reduce individual risk and the risk of the family. So going back to your question, so in terms of why is family treatment, there are many things we inherit from families. One of it is our propensity for diseases as well. And therefore, colon cancer is a disease that oftentimes also runs families based on their genetic condition. And that's why the guidelines for screening is actually, its driving factor is not age alone. It is actually the family history. And that's why those who have family history of colon cancer, they will be screened earlier, as Dr. Bradley rightly mentioned. So that if you don't have anybody in the family with colon cancer, that's when you start screening at average risk, which, as you know, some societies have even lowered it down to 45. As he mentioned, the past is just the 50 and older. Now there is more movement towards making it 45. And an organization actually says even African Americans can start at age 40. So, but the main driver is actually the family. So that if you have somebody in the family who developed colon cancer at, say, age 40, the family, the first relatives cannot wait till they are 40 before they start screening. They have to start screening 10 years earlier than the index is. So that will make it imperative that when you have somebody in the family who develops colon cancer, everybody in the family must be aware of it. And this is just talking about cancer that we have not linked to a gene problem. If the cancer has been linked to a gene problem, for example, there are some people that will have what we call lymphoma or FAP. Those ones are screened differently because their own risk is much higher. But good, you know, not so good, that's only limited to like 5% of the people. So it's very small. But in general, if somebody has colon cancer in the family, the first degree relative should start screening 10 years earlier. So this makes it really important that families should share medical history. And one of the things we realize is that often than not, because in some cultures, talking about diseases is a palatable thing. That's and then you also have social stigma associated with some things. In my language, for example, they don't like to talk about cancer. They don't. And I'm Yoruba from Nigeria, my background. Even cancer is described as jejere or a disease that doesn't heal. So people don't want people to they have it. If you are going to say it's a disease that doesn't go away. So, but that does not help the other family members if you don't share it with them. And that's why it's imperative that if there's a particular person, the family who has cancer, people, at least people in the family should know and they should talk to their doctors so that they can see how they can reduce their risk of that disease. So if we don't even take too many things away from this conference, I would say make peace with your family members so that they can tell you their health history. So even if that's the only thing we gain out of the conference, I think it's totally worth it. Because oftentimes families also, butt heads on too many things. So if only to just know what's going on with everybody, just make peace with everybody in your family. That does not mean after that you should start fighting them again. At least, everybody should come together, share their family history, because this is the most important step to actually reduce our risk of such diseases. So I'll stop here for now based on your question. But
Thank you.
I want to echo what Dr. Browley mentioned to us earlier.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we're really happy you're bringing up the issue of cultural stereotypes, stigma, how religious beliefs and practices when it comes to food, diet, and modern medicine plays such a huge role as, people work in trying to, as Dr. Browley says, we're not talking about prevention, but we're talking how can we minimize the risks and how can we manage it well. Could you also tell us quickly, in terms of modern medicine, when you talk about, cultural stereotypes and stigmas, there's so much fear about, there's so much mistrust as well about modern medicine, yet there has been a lot of progress that is done. How can people know that there's a way to balance and really understand and trust modern treatment processes that are in place, whilst at the same time adhering and not losing completely their traditional beliefs and all of that? How can we merge the two? How can we let people know that you can still practice your traditional beliefs but still trust in the modern medicine, so that you have a holistic approach in trusting and taking care of yourself?
I'm going to answer partly, and I'm going to defer the rest to Dr. Browley so that we can benefit from his wealth of experience. One thing I can tell you is, in terms of advancement in modern medicine, we continue to improve. It's not perfect, no question about that. It's not perfect, but we continue to, and have not been around for a long time. Don't let my, gray beard fool you. It's precocious. It is precocious. But even in my own training, okay, we've gone to a situation where our immediate teachers tell us of how they look through, like this, or to do scope. So when we have flexible tubes that you can actually pass through the rectum that can turn and twist, and you can pass in things to remove polyps and so on and so forth. So technology continues to advance. And one of the things is there's always this skepticism, a lot of time in the community of people of color, that we don't trust. And some of these they go back to a lot of discrimination in the past, so that some of those challenges still linger on. And that's why I want to applaud our organizers of this conference. This is part of the process to actually change this, by bringing awareness to the people and having people who understand our background, who have gone through a similar culture background, who live in the environment, and they can explain better to us, can also go along, which we mean encouraging those who are researchers, encouraging those who go to study all these things will help. And more important, for us to engage the community. And that's why a program like this is an outstanding program. I really want to clap for. I'm going to actually take that clap for the organizers of this event. A fantastic job. Now, that said, we need to engage the community. There are some opinions that will take a longer time to go away, but nonetheless, we still need to start. Okay, we still need to start. When I was in medical school, they used to tell us of people who go home, take the pills you recommend for them, and when they go home, they will take the apple drink to take the pill. Okay, so they are matching the two. That sometimes that can be difficult, or that can be dangerous. But what you prefer is to actually engage, so that they understand that some of these things that are actually prescribed also come from natural. There are some things that are now produced more artificially, but the origin is still natural. But that does not change the cultural concept that all of us are together. And it is when we work together that we can actually make a big impact in a disease like this. Because all of us are involved in it. This is involving all of us. And anybody who has a colon can always get it. That's what, and I'm going to stop there so that I can hear what Dr. Browley will want to shine.
Thank you. I would agree first off with everything that Dr. Layemo just said. But I would also encourage people to learn about health questions, try to have conversations with doctors. And there are reasons, there are legitimate reasons for distrust of people in medicine. I find that if you can have a good conversation with your physician, that generally means that is a person who you can trust. And that is a person who's going to respect you and your needs. When we talk about colorectal cancer, we start talking about things that people are very uncomfortable with, like putting colonoscopes up people's rectums and that sort of thing. I think we have to talk about that. We have to understand that that is uncomfortable to talk about, but we still have to talk about it. And I would encourage folks, one, be interested in health, two, learn a little bit about health, three, try to engage your healthcare providers in some conversation to learn and be.
Thank you so much to both. This is really great. So now, as we are talking about modern medicine, some of the challenges, the fears that are there, I think it would be important for us to talk about addressing treatment and the national guidelines. What does it all mean for people of color who do not fit the national guidelines or participate in clinical trials? As you know, again, clinical trials is something that our communities are very scared about, they're very worried about, and a lot of times they don't even get the opportunity to participate in clinical trials, meaning that because of that, the treatment processes and whatever cures or medicines that are coming up are not really in line with that particular group or that particular community and what they present. Is there a way you can tell us more about this, and how can we flip the script?
Yeah, I am a little hesitant to agree with all you just said. The major problem in the Black community is not that the treatments don't work, it's that Blacks don't get the treatment. For example, the study that I did that is most quoted was a study that showed that of Black women in metropolitan Atlanta diagnosed with breast cancer, 7%, it's like 1 out of every 16 who were diagnosed with breast cancer got no treatment after diagnosis. So that's the major thing. Now, the reason why I encourage people to go to doctors who participate in clinical trials is I've got a lot of data to show that doctors who participate in clinical trials tend to be better doctors, and they take better care of all of their patients versus the doctors who don't participate in clinical trials. I'm all for going on clinical trials, by the way. But I'm more concerned, are you seeing a doctor or going to a hospital or clinic that's participating in clinical trials? Because I'm more sure you're going to get higher quality care. Remember in my talk I said, one of the problems with Black people in the United States with colon cancer is a goodly proportion, not half, but a goodly proportion get less than adequate or less than optimal care.
Thank you so much. That is very helpful, because as we break down these myths and these misconceptions, it's very important for our people to understand how we participate in this and what type of doctors and treatment types we're looking for. Dr. Adeyinka, would you like to speak a little bit about that as well? Again, how can we flip the script, and how can we encourage people to participate in more clinical trials and seek those doctors out who are participating in the clinical trials?
So I also want to echo what you said. We did a study when I was in NIH, in which we actually looked at a major clinical trial that was actually ongoing. That was ongoing at that time, and that was the PLC, prostate, lung, colorectal, ovarian cancer screening trial. That was done by the government. So this program recruited 105,000 people. That's a lot of people. And they were screened for different cancers: prostate, lung, colon, and ovary. So This is a very, very large trial. We looked at the segment of that population for colon cancer. That patients who, and screening was free in this trial. Screening was free. So I'm emphasizing the word free here. Screening was free in the trial. So they've got flexible sigmoidoscopy. Anybody who had any problem with sigmoidoscopy to follow up to get a full colonoscopy so that they can be treated. Now, what we realized in this trial, which was published a few years ago, was that blacks had similar, findings of at screening with, but when it came to following up and getting colonoscopy to treat whatever lesion was found, blacks were less likely to follow up, even up to 1 year after they know that there's something in the colon. So this is not even a matter of knowing. When they know that there's something in the colon, blacks were still less likely to follow up and complete the process of screening. So this is really a big problem. So that when there is poor compliance, so in number one is to have access, that you have insurance and stuff like that. Number two is to have insurance and make sure you see your doctor. And then layered on top of that is after you have seen your doctor, they made recommendation and you don't follow up. So this can be really problematic. And that is why it's important that when you screen or when you see your doctor and they discuss, you should complete the process of screening. And it's really important. So getting screening, getting early diagnosis, but ensuring that one gets adequate and quality treatment. As Dr. Bradley mentioned, this will be the way to flip. This will be the way to reduce the disparity that we're experiencing, so that we get the whole of care from education, screening, early diagnosis, and quality treatment when problems are diagnosed. This will be something that we all need to ensure that we do at all times, and that, in our opinion, is the way to actually do this and improve overall health in the black community.
Thank you so much for that clarity. So what we're going to do right now, we have a patient that is a survivor and that has recently gone through colorectal cancer. We're going to call her patient E, and she's going to briefly give our audience a brief history of her journey with colorectal cancer, her family's journey with colorectal cancer. What are some of the challenges she's faced? What are some of the changes that have been made, and she's been able to go back to work? Despite all the challenges, she's able to live a normal life. So I'm going to let patient E speak to our community very briefly. And if you have any questions you want to ask her, please ask her quickly, and then we'll take a brief break and we'll come back. So here we go. Patient E, thank you so much for coming and joining our online discussion today. Please share with our community your story. Go ahead.
Hello.
We can help. We can hear you.
Hello. I'm patient E. Hello, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'm patient E. I am a survivor of colon cancer. In 2019, I started some illness. Started losing blood. I went for screening and they said I don't know what really was happening with me, so I was just taking iron infusion, until one day I see my gynecology and told me you need to talk to your primary doctor. Maybe they need to screen you, want to know what is going on with you. But I traveled. I went out of the country. I came back, and the day I reached America, I started because I was having like chocolate of bread, fever. So my sister told me, Esther, you're not going to lie in this house. Take you straight to the ER. So we went there, and my blood was like they said, right away we have to give you blood, and we have to do some, some check up to see. So I took like 2 pints of blood, then I went home. So 1 week later, I started going to the bathroom with blood. As soon as I see that, I called my friend. I told my friend, I said, you know what's going on with me? I said, could you imagine? I went to the bathroom with blood. He said, Esther, please don't sit in the house. Go straight to the ER. So I went to the ER. As soon as I went there, they said, you are not going home again. We have to do some scanning. So I went to the scanning room. They scanned me. That's when they find out that I have a mass in my colon. So they told me they're going to keep me there for the night. And I went to the hospital at Holy Cross. I said, okay. So we went there, and I saw the doctor, and he told me, Esther, you have a colon, patient E, you have a vaccine in the right colon. So, but we don't want to take it out. Maybe we need to take everything out. You have to do genetic testing. Then I said, doctor, please, can you take up what you see now for now, and any other thing you can do later? He told me to wait. I said, okay. On the process, there's complications. So he told me to, Esther, I need to save your life. You need to take me in so that we can do this thing, and later on we can see what to do. Then I said, okay, doctor, I'm ready. You can take me in for the surgery. I went in for the surgery, and was successful. I came out of the surgery. After some days, I cannot pass gas. So, but I was still doing my exercises. Anything happened, after I tell my doctor. So he told me, then I asked my doctor, I said, doctor, how can I pass gas? I've been here for 10 days. I've not eaten anything, and only the IV on me. Say, maybe you need to give me something so that I can pass the gas. So they give me a injection on the IV that helped me that day to pass the gas. And they came again and told me, Esther, since the surgery is successful, we have to discharge you, but we have to go on chemotherapy. I don't want to do it because it's like, I've been discouraged for doing chemotherapy because I know some people that have gone through all this thing, how they feel, and I was like scared. I don't want to do it. So they encouraged me, please, I'm sending you to one of the best doctors that we, see you through. I said, okay. I came and talked with the doctor. We started the chemotherapy in December last year. It was a little bit tough for me, but I went through it with the help of God. Yes, I wanted to stop it because the way it was reacting on me, but with courage and friends talking to me, said, please be patient until you finish your treatment. So I was on it till I finished my treatment, and I was able to go back to work, and I am strong due to screaming and due to checking. Because if not, I would have died. But because I didn't see so, I was asking questions, what's going on with me, and they were able to find out what was wrong with me, and I was cured through them with the help of God. And I'm here today. Even when I tell person I went through all those things, they say, wow, you are a strong woman. So I'm encouraging the Black community to be checking these things, not that when you have a pain in your stomach, you have, oh, this is ulcer, you diagnose yourself. No, you need to go to the hospital. You need to be doing screening. That will save the life of the Black community. So I'm encouraging people not to discourage. They have to believe that they can be cured. With me, I am cured of stage 3 cancer, full of cancer. I'm here today, still doing my screening. Recently, I just did my colonoscopy and some scanning, and all the results came negative. So I thank God for that, and I've started my daily activities, still doing my exercises, watching my diet. So I'm grateful. So when I heard about this program, I said, oh, I'll be willing to come and share my little experience to encourage other people, to be doing more of screening, more of checking, because this thing happens a lot in our community. I know a lot of people that have died through colon cancer. That even stigma me at times. I say, oh God, I thank you for being alive today. Yeah, so I just want to thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We truly appreciate your bravery. We're very grateful that you were able to go through this successfully and you're doing okay. You're back at work. And we want to, encourage our community members that there is hope. When you do the treatment, there is hope and there is a way to move on with your life and really be able to get back to work, as our patient E has explained. I want to see quickly if anybody has any questions, and then let's take a quick break and we'll get right back. Thank you again so much, Miss E, for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Do you want to promote your business? Do you want to talk about your nonprofit organization? Do you want to talk about your culture? Introducing the online web TV, Africa Today. Fogham, where you can watch us live at the same time on 4 platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and using the Africa Today app. Download our app today for Android or Apple. Promote your business today. For more information, go to www.africtoday.com. Africa Today, the best of digital TV.
And thank you for joining our online show talking about colorectal cancer. So let's continue our discussion right now. We've heard such a powerful conversation right now from Miss E. And we can sense hope here, that there is a lot of hope despite the challenges and numerous obstacles in our community, but there's a lot of hope, which is what Miss E has told us. So Dr. Browley, let us talk about, first of all, there's a lot of mental and physical stress that comes with colorectal cancer. How can we avoid mental and physical stress as we deal with this very serious disease, and also how can our community support us? And then Dr. Adeyinka, I'll also ask that you also contribute to that as well.
You know, in medicine, we've come to realize that we have to treat the whole patient, not just the colon cancer. And there's actually a specialty in medicine that's allied with oncology that's called palliative care. Don't let the name confuse you. It's not taking care of people until the end of life. It's taking care of people while they're alive. And palliative care specialists actually provide counseling. Palliative care teams very frequently involve ministry, involve social work, trying to look at and make sure you can address all the needs of the patient. And then, of course, another important need of the patient is involvement of the family and support from the family. And so those are all incredibly important. I would encourage any patient with colorectal cancer who has a need to openly voice that need to their healthcare provider and ask for the help that can come from more than just the doctor who is doing the surgery or the doctor who's prescribing chemotherapy.
Thank you so much. Dr. Adeyinka, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so I absolutely agree. And of course, for us as gastroenterologists, we are in the front end, actually in the back end.
That's Dr. Humor.
Because we use the video camera that he was describing, and it was, portraying it that it's hard for people to accept, which is true, because you are using a video camera on a lighted tube and passing it through people's rectum to look in the colon. But one of the challenges that people often have is that, I've had patients tell me that area is only one way, it's coming out, nothing is going in. But to do a colonoscopy, you're actually going in. But the fact is, if you're able to prevent or diagnose early, you reduce the problems that could be occurring when the disease is diagnosed late. Okay, so that's one thing I want people to get away from this, to think about. Yes, it's inconveniencing to get screened, but being diagnosed early is far, far better than being diagnosed late. So that's number one. Number two, when it comes to the issue of diagnosis itself, following up and ensuring that you get care, adequate care for the diagnosis is really important, very important. Because if the disease is diagnosed early, but you don't get the treatment you're supposed to get, then the disease is just going to get worse. And the family is actually the initial support you will get, because they are the ones that will encourage you. And if the person is tired, they are the ones to drive you to see the doctor. And of course, engaging the healthcare enterprise in terms of all the other additional resources that may be available is really important. And I think we should ensure that we maximize our opportunities in this regard. So it's not just about trying to prevent with screening, but also getting adequate care. And when it comes to physical toll that it takes more than physical toll. It takes resources, money, time, and so many things that we can't even begin to fathom, except for those who have, gone through the process or have a loved one that has gone through the process. So it takes the entire community. It really takes the entire community to be able to help. Because if a young person is going for chemotherapy, somebody will probably need to drive him, probably his job, and sometimes is rent, is, you know, so many things are involved. And that's why we have to come together as a community to try and reduce the burden of this disease among ourselves. So this is really important. But everything starts with the individual saying to himself, I want to lead a healthy life, and I want to mitigate my risk. I want to reduce my risk, and then getting the appropriate taking the appropriate steps that will ensure that this is actually done. And of course, one cannot overemphasize getting exercise. I know Dr. Bradley was stressing it as if he's going to beat us on the head with it. Maybe you should beat us on the head with it anyway. Because many of us, when we think of exercise, we are thinking of the gym. Okay? And many people pay for gym and they don't go. Okay, so walking around the block, as he rightly pointed out, is actually important. Because no matter what is going on, whether it is to maintain your health, or when you are, you know, a little down, and then you try and build your energy up through exercise, exercising and eating right will always work, and will always be an adjunct thing we can do at all times, regardless of what is going on. That's just what I want to add to it.
Thank you so much. That was very helpful. You have to take ownership for your health, and you have to also have the community. It takes a village for this to be really, to get the support that is required. Thank you so much. So as we are wrapping up, Ray, you do a lot of community work, and in your work with community outreach and engagement, can you help us here by sharing very briefly some strategies and best practices for community capacity building and mobilization around the issues of colorectal cancer? And I know, Dr. Brownlee, this is also your expertise, so maybe when Ray gives us his input, you can also do that, and Dr. Adeyinka, you can also give us as we wrap up. Go ahead, Ray.
Yes. Absolutely. Building partnerships, organizing and mobilizing. Be a cultural broker. A cultural broker is a person who can go into different communities and coordinate and organize with that community. Be a cultural broker. Learn to collaborate. Collaborate and partnerships are very important in this day and age. Build that partnership early, before you start looking for funding to support a project. Those are the keys to developing a good community organizations, being able to share, being able to speak and advocate for those who are silent.
Thank you, Ray. Dr. Brownlee?
Yeah, I've come to appreciate the importance of being holistic in dealing with communities. We need to have good conversation between healthcare providers, healthcare promoters, people in the community. When I say holistic, we need to talk about education. Education leads to jobs. Education leads to health promotion and disease prevention. And so we need to be fully supportive of all the good things in the community, not just focused on one thing. We focus on just cancer instead of other health issues. That's wrong. Many of us in cancer want to focus only on one disease or only on screening for one disease. We need to be holistic, talk about education, talk about prevention, and talk beyond health promotion.
Thank you so much. So I'll follow up, Dr. Adeyinka. How can we be better advocates for ourselves, or advocate for those who cannot speak for themselves?
That is a big question. But I'll actually answer that. Since we are broadcasting to Africa, I will start that with a statement in my language, which is Yoruba, that ara ki wuwo kalara ma le gbe, meaning you can't be so big that you can't move your own body yourself. So it may be difficult for people to help you if you are not making effort to help yourself. So the first thing will be for us to take ownership of our own health. Okay, so you have to be proactive. You have to say to yourself that I want to, like we always make these New Year resolutions that we start breaking on January 2nd. So when you make such a resolution that you want to see your doctor well, live a healthy lifestyle this year, or whatever resolution you give yourself, follow through with it. If it is to eat healthy, if it is to exercise, if it is to lose weight, whatever it is that you think will promote your health, take ownership of it and keep struggling. And if you like, I'm going to give a personal anecdote. When I decided I wanted to run the marathon, the first thing they told me was tell everybody so that you don't chicken out of it. And so if you take ownership of doing that, by the way, I did the marathon. I won't tell you how long it took me, but I did the marathon in the end. But the issue is take ownership of whatever you say you want to do and keep working towards it. So that will be in all aspects of the health promotion: eating right, exercising, getting adequate physical exercise, making sure you see your doctor, completing the process that you start that can improve your health. And one thing that I actually want to emphasize that Dr. Bradley mentioned, in terms of the overall health, it's not about looking at only cancer and preventing cancer, but overall, how do we improve our overall health? If you don't have access to good food, if you don't have good jobs, if you don't have good education, some of these things can really be challenging. I remember talking to a patient of mine a few years ago, and I said you should be eating a lot of fruits and vegetables and so on and so forth. And she looked at me like this and she kept quiet. And I said, do you understand what I said? She said, yes. But if I have no money to buy the food, what do I do? And honestly, I have no answer for that question. I had no answer. You see, so this can be a challenge that is beyond us as healthcare provider, but this is something that the entire community can address. How do we address those who are poor and they may not have enough resources to buy fresh fruits and vegetables and stuff like that? We know that processed food increase the risk for colon cancer, especially processed meat, that's even is classified as a class 1 carcinogen. But then the issue is, what will happen if you are poor or you don't have access to this? And this is not what your doctor can give you. This is what the community can provide. So we need to look at all ourselves, like all of us, look inward and see how we can improve our overall health together.
That is very powerful. Thank you so much for that. It is so important, even as we are sharing these recommendations for improving culturally sensitive healthcare and quality standard of care when we talk about racial and health and equity for underserved and vulnerable populations, and making access to good, healthy, and nutritious food is so key right now, especially with so many multi-layered challenges that people are facing. We're running short on time, so I would like us to have a couple of questions from the audience. We also have Miss E is still here with us. So if anyone has any questions for Dr. Browley or Dr. Adeyinka or Miss E, please let us know. We'll take a few questions from the audience. And Alan, you're here as well. Let us know if you're getting any questions from YouTube or from Africa Online today, Africa TV today. So I have one question that came in. Are there environmental factors that impact the likelihood of getting colon cancer?
Very, very good question. In the doctor's world, diet, by the way, is environmental. Some of the things that we're studying includes the microbiome, which is the bacteria that live in the colon. And it may very well be that some people who are at higher risk for colorectal cancer have certain strains of bacteria in their bowel that people who are at lower risk don't have, or vice versa. And we're looking at how can we manipulate the microbiome, the bacteria in the stool, to improve a person's chances of not getting colorectal cancer. Do you have other thoughts, sir?
I agree. I mean, the colon cancer is a multifactorial problem. Starting with the body makeup itself in terms of the genes, but also how the genes also interact with the environment. Okay, so, and the environment begins with what goes into it, which will be your diet. It will also be in terms of all the other functionality of the gut itself. And just like we all know, if you exercise, your body functions better. Your body functions better in terms of your blood pressure, in terms of your diabetes. I mean, everything functions better if you are active. So some of these things we can't say exactly this is one thing you have to do. And that's why we have to put everything together, from living healthy lifestyles, controlling other diseases that could impact colon and other health as well, and of course reducing those things that we know can worsen the situation, like Dr. Bradley mentioned in terms of smoking earlier, okay, drinking alcohol, maintaining adequate body size, and eating fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. So it's the whole package that we'll have to put into efforts to reduce the risk, and of course screening. The reason why more often than not a lot of emphasis is put on screening is because it's the initial step. It's the initial step. So that if everything else in terms of a healthy lifestyle is supposed to be something we should be doing from cradle. Okay, cradle up to, I see that Mr. Bridgewater put it as rocking chair. I started asking myself, rocking chair. So that makes me realize, okay, that's when you are much older, right? So because I'm more used to when people say cradle to grave, but I guess this time we don't want to die, so we won't use grave. So we just sit to the rocking chair. But the thing is, this will be things you'll be doing all through your life. Eating right, not smoking, not drinking alcohol, eating, doing good will be for the entire lifespan. But screening starts based on recommendation, and that's why a lot of emphasis is put on screening, but it's not the only thing that we need. We need the whole process is what we actually need to be able to reduce our risk of this disease, and that would be a challenge for all of us.
Thank you so much. So we have actually a question from the audience for Miss E. Does Miss E have family history of colon cancer? Miss E? Miss E, please go ahead. The question was for you. Is there a family history of colon cancer?
Yes. 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 We have yes, we have a history of colon cancer in our family.
Thank you so much.
If I pass a comment on that.
Yeah.
You see, part of why when Dr. Brawley mentioned, and you asked me the first question about genetics, this is why I was pleading at the beginning that everybody should go and make peace with their family members and get this information. Because when you have this immediate information, it changes the dynamics of recommendation for that family. It changes it immediately. Because if we use, let's say, now in terms of, let's say, our Black Panther that we all love and miss so much, but he was diagnosed with colon cancer at age 39. His first degree relatives cannot wait. They have to be screened when they turn 29. No later than when they turn 29. That's 10 years earlier than when he was diagnosed. Okay, so the earlier the person was diagnosed, the earlier the family members in that family need to be screened. And that's so they don't wait till they are 40 or 50 or something like that. No, that's why family history is key, because it is the driving factor for when screening should start. So this is really important. If we, like I mentioned earlier, if we don't get anything else, please go and make peace with your family members and get this information of health. You know, if you need a letter written to them, maybe a free TV can write a public service announcement that says, to every family who have ever offended any other family member, we hereby apologize on behalf of every family member to every family member, so that we can get that out of the way, so that everybody can discuss with their family members to actually improve their health.
Yeah, if I can
That's very powerful. Go ahead, Dr.
also jump in real quick. Sometimes screening doesn't work. Oftentimes it does, but sometimes it doesn't work. I just want to say that because there's somebody listening who said, I did everything the doctor said I should do, but I still have stage 4 colon cancer.
Thank you so much. That is very important for us to know. We have, this is going to be our last question, and I'm going to join the questions together. So we have someone on Facebook asking what % of colon cancer is preventable? And then what will influence an adjustment of screening guidelines to begin earlier for Blacks, not based on family history, but on race? And this is for other cancers as well, like prostate.
I'll start. First, one has to be very careful when one does racial profiling for any disease. Even with prostate cancer, I'm not very comfortable with starting early for all Blacks. It's actually Blacks who are from West Africa who are at higher risk of prostate cancer versus Blacks from South Africa or East Africa. And so there, one is to be very, very careful when starting to make a recommendation. Two, and also in that question, the most Black lives in the United States that are lost from colorectal cancer are a failure to get screened among people age 55 to 65. So let's not get too into, should we start screening at 40 or something like that, when the majority of lives lost are age 55 to 65. What was the first question?
It was what percentage of colon cancer is preventable?
Yeah, I don't know what percent is preventable through diet and exercise. I know a goodly amount is. I know that people who are in screening programs have a 35% lower risk of dying of colon cancer and a 20% lower risk of developing colon cancer. Those are the clinical trials that told us that screening was a good thing. But diets high in fruits and vegetables, whole grains, are actually going to prevent a whole bunch of colon cancers as well. I don't know a number for that. I don't know. Do you know, Dr. Layemo?
It varies, because even when you are looking at population related advantage, even 2 points difference over 200 million people is a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of overall population advantage, everything Dr. Bradley mentioned are the key things, because everybody can do them. Everybody can improve their health by eating right and exercising. Those ones don't cost anything. It's you. Okay. And those typically, those are the ones that have the population attributable risk that is the best, because it's something that everybody can do. You need to have a doctor, you need to have health insurance, you need to have this, you need to have that to be able to get colon cancer screening. You know, so some of those things may not be available to everybody, but eating right and exercising is available to everybody, and so the impact of those ones can actually be a whole lot more. But that said, why somebody like me will emphasize screening a lot is because we see so many people not getting screened. If the issue is in terms of, because as high as we say that people have colon cancer, you'll be surprised that 1 out of every 3 person is not getting screened. And these are people who have insurance.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who have insurance. and they don't get screened. And they have, the doctor is there, the facility is there, and I can't tell you how many times people will be scheduled for procedure and they will not show up. And honestly, it can be frustrating.
Yeah.
And there was a time we actually sat down with the insurance, and the insurance company told us that there was a program they did. They actually will go to their houses to ensure that people who have been scheduled to get screened, that they get it. They will go to their houses, people will look at them, when they see them, they won't open their door. I mean, I was surprised when I heard that directly from the insurance, because it was a collaborative effort to try and see what can we do to increase screening. And we are talking about screening among those who are still more likely to die from colon cancer, and that would be those who are older than 50, as Dr. Brawley mentioned. So we get more publicity when you have a young person who died, but the people who die more from colon cancer are those who are older. And sometimes these are people who don't get screened. So even if we are thinking in terms of where should we invest our resources, it is still to get those who are captured in the guidelines to get screened, getting those ones screened. Okay, so anybody who's over the age of 45, 50 should get screened, because those who are younger, we are still sorting out what's risk, what can we do, and so on and so forth. But at least for the ones we already know, let's hold down, and take care of those ones first. So I totally agree with Dr. Brawley on that.
The other thing is good diet, exercise, and weight management not only reduces risk of colorectal cancer, it reduces the risk of at least a dozen other cancers, and it reduces risk of diabetes and cardiovascular disease. So it's really a good thing.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we just have one follow-up question, and that when you talked about sometimes screening, there are challenges with screening itself. We have a question: why and how would screening fail? And so what else can be done with screening to ensure that does it mean that sometimes the screening, the colonoscopy, does not catch the polyps? Or what really can people do in addition to screening to make sure that they are diagnosed correctly and as soon as possible?
The things that you can do are try not to get disease with good diet and exercise, number one. I'll let the GI doc talk about how you can, sometimes the polyp is not there and then it grows in between colonoscopies, or maybe the polyp is not bleeding in people who are getting stool blood testing. Just keep in mind, in the really good clinical studies done in really good places, screening reduces risk of death by 35%. That means one can think of it this way. Of the people who were going to die from colorectal cancer, screening currently does not prevent 2 out of 3 of those people from dying.
Okay. I will differ a tiny bit from that, because that's flipping the data a little bit. But we are looking at when people still develop cancer when you screen them. But screening itself is already lowering your risk a little bit, even if they don't take out anything. But the issue is nothing is perfect. Nothing is perfect. I used to believe we can get more to perfection when I was slightly more younger. Okay, remember I said more and younger at the same time together to convince myself that I'm not getting old. So, but the thing is, nothing is perfect, and screening is also not perfect. And yet, there are some genetic predisposition that will still make some people go through when the normal mucosa is there, and when something pops up there, and then it develops rapidly. So the guidelines in terms of if you get colonoscopy and there's nothing is found, come back in 10 years, is applicable to the average risk person. For those who have higher predisposition, like you have the genetic or your family history, we don't say come back in 10 years. Those ones are tailored to those individual problems that they have. And I'll give you an example just to knock this down a little bit. When people have family history that involve having breast cancer, womb cancer, colon cancer, like we call Lynch syndrome and stuff, If you have Lynch syndrome, we don't tell you to come and be screened every 10 years. If you are over 40, you're actually going to be getting colonoscopy every year. Because the risk profile for those people are different. So when we are talking, because most people don't fit into this, that's why our talk is usually for the average risk person, which will be somebody whose family members do not have colon cancer. That will be people who have, they are overall they are healthy. They don't smoke. They don't, do things that necessarily increase their risk. So those are the ones that are being addressed in the general guidelines. But each person gets addressed depending on their risk profile. So colon cancer screening is not perfect. Okay, like Dr. Bradley mentioned, sometimes polyps, if you do a stool test, it may not bleed at the time you do the test. So which means it will be negative, but that does not mean you don't have something there. And that's why if you are doing stool tests, they say do it every year. So which means when you get one negative result, don't assume, okay, I'm fine, I don't have to do it again. No, do it every year, because the chances that if it is missed at one time, it can be caught at another time is increased. If it is colonoscopy, if they say every 10 years, don't say I'm going to give myself additional 10 years. Okay, and then so you do it one every 20 years. Even though these things are not perfect, but this is what we know right now, and we continue to try to improve based on the science, based on the results that we are getting from studies. But they are not perfect. Nothing is perfect. Nothing is perfect. So when we say screening may fail, it's not in terms of failure that, maybe you get a check wrong X. It's more in terms of it doesn't catch everything, because so many other factors are also in play that screening alone is not going to address. So that but the key thing is we either try to prevent as much as we can, we make early diagnosis as much as we can, but we should get absolutely good quality care if cancer is diagnosed.
Thank you so much. That was so excellent. And I think our viewers really appreciated that clarity. We are now at the end of our program. I want to remind everyone that a link was sent for a sweepstakes. We have about 10 colorectal kits, cancer screening kits that we're giving out. So fill out the survey and that we sent, and we'll reach out to you. I cannot thank you enough, Dr. Otis and Dr. Adeyinka. This has been an incredible conversation. As you can see, there's a lot of engagement, and we probably need to have a lot more of these conversations as we move around. I want to thank you both so much for honoring us and giving our audience such helpful and really, really much needed information. So thank you so much. I'd like to thank the Michael and Maurizia Pacha Foundation, the Assembly of Petworth, for highlighting these important and life-saving discussions. Many special thanks to Ray Bridgewater, who works so tirelessly behind the scenes, lining up the speakers and working on this program. And I'd like to thank Alain at Afrique Today, without whom we are unable to bring these high-quality discussions online for viewers all over the world. And of course, we would like to thank our viewers all over the world who are listening. Please share these talks with your family members. You can watch it on afriquetoday.com. Afrique Today live streams and rebroadcasts on their TV, on Facebook, YouTube, and also the website. Thank you so much, everyone, and I wish you all a great rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Do you want to promote your business? Do you want to talk about your nonprofit organization? Do you want to talk about your culture? Introducing the online web TV, Africa Today. Fogham. You can watch us live at the same time on 4 platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and using the Africa Today app. Download our app today for Android or Apple. Promote your business today. For more information, go to www.